Today, we're going to break down one of the early 2000s most popular black cinema love stories, Love and Basketball. The film tells the story of Monica, Sanaa Lathan, and Quincy Omar Epps, two childhood friends who both aspired to be professional basketball players.
Over the years, Monica and Quincy began to fall for each other, but their separate paths to basketball stardom threatened to pull them apart. When Love and Basketball was released back in 2000, it became a fan favorite. But taking a closer look 24 years later makes us ask the question whether the love depicted in this film is a healthy love. We'll answer this question and more.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
A lot of you requested that we cover this film, and I can't wait for us to talk about it. But first, we want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App or click the thanks button on this video, or you can head on over to patreon.com/AxiomAmnesia or become a channel member by clicking the join button to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
Do you understand the metaphoric phrase light as a rock?
So they're in high school, just all of a sudden, and Monica is playing a game. Quincy is watching with his boys or his teammates. And she gets kicked out of the game, basically. But the only thing I really think about in this scene is I guess it's trying to show that she kind of got a temper or whatever. But her hairdo just looks like a typical female basketball player from back then and earlier. And all of the players do. So I think they probably did a good job on that part of the film. I don't know what... I think they're wearing wigs and stuff now.
Oh, they're definitely... Well, I don't know about high school, but I would assume the same kind of as college. You see them literally sweating and playing with a whole full wig on top of their hair. I mean, and I think beauty... Back then, it was just like, I don't think that they were as concerned, especially not at the high school level, of looking cute while they played. They wanted to win. They weren't preoccupied with how they look. Right now, you got followings and the demands of having a certain look. You got lashes on, nails on while you're playing.
Nails.
A full wig. You know, you're totally done up and yet playing at the same time. It's a whole lot. But, you know, when they started the scene, when they switched from the early 80s to 1988, which is they're calling like the second quarter, we see that Monica is, you know, just playing ball, and then MC Light as a Rock is playing.
Get out my face, don't want to hear no more. If you hate rejection, don't try to score.
And so again, they do a really good job of transforming you back in time. If you remember when this was the music that was playing, you go, oh yeah, I recognize that. And then, you know, you tie it to your own life. And I think they did a really good job. And of course, this is when we first see Sanaa Lathan in the movie. And then also we see the scar.
No one can stop me. I am the light.
They make sure to highlight the scar. So like, yes, this is indeed
this
Monica.
This is the same person. He is scarred for life.
Yes. Yes.
Is that a metaphor?
Good question. So you mentioned about, you know, her seeming them trying to imply that like she's emotional or on the court and whatever because she gets this technical foul and stuff. But what I wonder is it that she's emotional because she's a girl, almost like the way it's implied, or is it that being a girl is very hard when you're trying to be a competitor in this, and that you're emotional because of those pressures?
No, I think it's the same thing as with like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, where, you know, they doing their little trash talking and stuff, right? And it's like, oh, women don't, or girls don't do this, right?
Tactical foul. You suck. 2 shots. Sit down and shut up.
So it's that same sort of thing, because you had the daddy behind her who was just trying to tell the mama, you know, it's okay. She just got frustrated because she playing a competitive sport.
Monica!
I don't know if she feels bad.
She's behaving horribly. Monica!
Right? And the mama is representative of the traditional female perspective of she's not acting very nice out there.
You are not acting ladylike on the court.
Yes.
Her mother is like incensed.
And the man is just like, oh man, just let her go ahead, and this is how it goes. You know, it's that sort of a thing.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to continue to watch and see if, this is how I feel about things as they unravel. Is it that she's emotional? Not the part about, the fighting and going back and forth with people and doing that kind of competitive stuff. But I mean, I feel that there's a thread even when she's not on the court, that because she's a girl, she is being emotional. Because she's a girl with a dream, she's just emotional. But I think that a big part of her frustration is the fact that she's a girl. So it's not because she's a girl.
Even on the court with all
it's not that her
girls?
female emotions are causing her to act in this quote stereotypically girlish way. Oh, you're so emotional, because and ladies, you guys understand this, like where it'll be implied by men that you are just emotional and that this is why you're not thinking straight, and this is why, completely discounting the notion that what you could be upset about could be legitimate. And I think what she really is upset about is how much harder it has to be for her to make it on her way to the NBA. Or and at this point and even now, they don't let women in the NBA. So you got the WNBA, but
So this
yeah.
is just overarching on her entire life, even during playing a game.
Well,
That
it's a movie, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe somebody
that
thought
she
that.
has I
Maybe.
guess. So are we talking about from the standpoint of the filmmakers, or if the character is thinking this in the moment that she's playing basketball, and that's why she's acting like this during the basketball game?
I think the character, whether she's aware of it or not, recognizes that it is harder for women, and this is
And
kind
that's
of
why
the thing.
she lashes out during
This
the basketball
informs
game.
everything that she does.
Okay.
That's perhaps the case. It's a possibility in my mind, at least. So yeah, so they're playing and this happens, and then but like the girls are talking to Quincy.
My rubber, but I got rid of those who tried to rock me. Light as shit.
When he's in the ring, like he's the jock who seems to have it easy, and she looks like she has it hard. And he's like, "Oh, I'm out here," or whatever, and then he leaves after she gets taken out of the game.
I'm out.
And then we see in the next scene she's talking to her father, like, talk to the coach, tell the coach to keep me on the floor because, we got recruiters coming in and I need them to see me, because she's trying to go to college.
Lost your head.
I was just showing emotion.
Monica and her family are talking about what happened in the game, and the dad's like, you lost your head, and then they just kind of go back and forth. The mama is like, when you gonna get out of this phase of being a tomboy?
I keep hoping you'll grow out of this tomboy thing.
I won't. I'm a lesbian.
And she says that I won't because I'm a lesbian, right? And this is indicating because of this like 2000, it was unacceptable to be a tomboy, right? Or it was acceptable. The narrative is that it could be acceptable to be a tomboy, but not to be a lesbian, right? And it was like a step to where we get to now, where you could just say it's okay to be a lesbian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you look at each generation where things are just hard for anybody who is deviating from what people at that point would call, quote, normal, which is not, I wouldn't even call it normal. It's the common path of things. So if you're a tomboy, then you're not in the middle of the bell curve. You are somewhere off to the side, one end or the other, right?
That's not funny. Well, that's what you think, isn't it? Because I'd rather wear a jersey than an apron.
Do you think that today, though, the thing about the comments about Monica saying, well, you think I'm a lesbian because I'm a tomboy, and how they were like, that's not funny. Do you think that that's something that they could put in a film today, like 24 years later?
Well, I think it kind of represents a perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it could be in there. But what are the filmmakers trying to say would be more what causes the problems, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it's kind of like with Leave the World Behind, right? That one line where a character talks about not trusting white people, and then like, why would they say that? Because it's a perspective of a character. That's why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would seem like, okay, if the person was in today, then they're gonna be like, okay, you're living in the past, because like I said, that was the step, from it's acceptable to be a tomboy but not a lesbian, to where now it's just acceptable to be a lesbian. Because would it have been acceptable if this character, by people who watched it, by the audience, if she was just like, yeah, and I'm a lesbian, and it wasn't said basically to piss off her mama.
Right, because that's why she said it here.
Yeah.
I think you wouldn't have had the movie, right? Or, but see, you don't have the dynamic of the comparison of what it's like for the male versus the female. I kind of think I don't think they would have wanted to make such a film back then. And I think that if you look at where Black culture is, there's been a lot of progress in terms of things like this, but as compared with, I think, the broader American culture, if you will, I still think that Black culture tends to be quite conservative in these areas, especially when you look at because of the role of the Black church. And I think the Black church still is not as accepting, has prejudices against people who are in the LGBTQ community. And that informs every aspect of Black life, Black cinema, Black art. But I do think that the representation has changed because you do have now filmmakers who are telling those stories. We saw movies like Moonlight, and we have
P-Valley and stuff.
Yeah, and so we're seeing those representations of people, that represent real people's lives.
But and also, the thing was you didn't have as many spots back then, right? So now you got a lot of spots, so you can choose not to watch it, right? But if we were making these movies back then where everybody's going to see them and you don't have that much choice, they're not going to allow.
Yeah, they won't tell that story. Kind of the same way as compared to the what I would call mainstream white American culture, where they're just not as interested in hearing the stories of the minority. There are going to be a whole lot of films that have like an all-white cast that may not have anybody who's not white in the film versus, the amount of films that they would be willing to make that are all Black and kind of sit over here in the corner,
You would be pretty if you do something to your head.
The mother is also talking about you would be pretty, if you did your hair. You got a lot going for yourself.
Realize you have a lot going for yourself. You're smart.
Because the father tells her, like, look, maybe it's time for us to face the facts that you're not going to make it and get, recruited for college ball.
Maybe it's time you start thinking about other things beside basketball.
But she doesn't want to give up. And I think her father in the home was really the only proponent of this basketball idea anyway. And now he's like giving up hope because she hasn't been recruited yet.
You got one game left and you haven't been recruited.
Yeah, you ain't get recruited. You got one game. Man, I don't know how she made it, but I guess you could go be a walk-on somewhere, possibly. But basketball teams are so small, that's like a long shot.
We're going to find out later how you made it, but I'll give you a clue. Somebody got pregnant and it opened up a spot.
We see Quincy playing basketball in his high school game, and he's the star. He's doing everything right. He got all the girls who want him and stuff.
The song,
and
I Go to Work.
Cherie's favorite song, I Go to Work. I can never get behind a song that's with a title like that. But anyway, so he's doing good. Complete opposite of the girls. So it starts off, girls can't play ball, right? Girls can't play no ball. And then we get to a point where look at the characters who we're highlighting. One is very successful and one is not. And it could be because she's emotional and she's a girl, right?
That's the open question that they continue to show us. But then we also see, at this game, Gabrielle Union playing one of the high schoolers who wants to know if Quincy has a date for the spring dance.
You know who she was asking to the spring dance? Nope.
So instead of just coming up to him because she don't want to seem fast, she tries to go through Monica, right?
Yeah.
And Monica is like, this girl, but she gives a note to give to Quincy and stuff. So it's clear that they are not the same kind of girls and they don't really want to be bothered with each other, except that Gabrielle Union's character wants to get with Quincy and she's willing to use Monica to do it.
Oh, can you give him this for me, please?
Why does she say, look at that booty? Is that how women be talking?
So I always thought that was really odd because, I always thought that the parts of a man's body that a girl, or woman is looking at, like the arms, the chest, maybe the abs, maybe, I don't know, but the butt is, that's weird to me. But
Lord, look at that booty. I just want to let the sweat off.
hey, there are some women who I've heard references, right? They'll be like, oh, he has a cute butt, or, I've heard these references. That's just, maybe that's just like if you like some other attribute, long hair versus short hair on a guy or something. I don't know, but that is just not,
And
yeah.
then they focused in on it on the camera and stuff, bruh.
They zoomed in. I mean, no. So to be clear, though, the other part is because Omar Epps now is, probably like around 50 years old or so, maybe a little older, but right around that age. If you're younger, you didn't know Omar Epps back in the day when he was considered to be like a real heartthrob in young Black Hollywood, right? We saw him first, most likely in Juice. And by the way, we did do a fan theory, kind of a breakdown of the movie also mixed in there with that on the movie Juice. It is on our other channel, Axiom Amnesia. I'll link that in the description. But, he was considered fine for the day. Girls liked him. So I think that was also, in terms of the choice of actor, a good choice for this time.
But she was talking about eating groceries before it got popular.
That's so disgusting.
She's talking about how she want to lick the...
Bruh, this is a family show. We can.
Well, that's what she said it, not me. She was talking about eating them groceries, man.
Oh, man.
Back in 2000. This was very bleeding edge stuff that was going on right here, cutting edge.
Man. So,
very progressive movie.
Yes, it is. So, but that his experience, like against her experience playing, like you said, is just polar opposites. And his daddy is also there at the game. So he's there looking like a big hotshot NBA player. Even if it is for the worst team in the NBA at the time. And everybody wants to know, where is Quincy going? Because Quincy has been recruited. And his father's like, wait for the press conference, and he's got a lot of attention on him. So after the game, we see that the interview continues on. And the reporter is asking, hey, I bet you'd be happy if your son played at USC like you did. And his response was, I would love for him to get a good education.
You'd love for him to play at USC like you did, right?
No, I'd love for him to get a good education.
And then he goes on to talk about, Princeton. Hey, maybe we need to talk back to them.
We should have another talk with Coach Carrillo in Princeton.
Oh, come on, Pop.
Quincy doesn't want to go to Princeton. Quincy wants to be on a team that can, quote, go all the way to the championship.
I don't care about the team, Quincy. I care about the school.
Zeke is saying, I care about the school, not the team, But then he goes on to say, you played a good game, son, and I'm proud of you or whatever.
Played a good game today, man. I was proud of you.
Thanks, man.
But thus far, I guess that's what makes a movie good or not, right? They haven't told us why the daddy is like this. So we need to know why he just wants his son to, worry about his education or what school he's going to rather than trying to make it to the league or playing basketball.
Well, and then like 7 or 8 years ago, they were he was talking about he only had 2 years, so presumably he's retired at this point, right?
Yeah. And
he's not playing, so he has seen the rise and fall of his own NBA career. He can probably look at that and know how short that really is. He's in his 40s now and his career is over. I would say if he went pro at some point after college, so you figure around 21, and then he had the kid early on, so he didn't have that long of a career as compared with careers that average everyday people have,
but he probably made a lot more money than average everyday people.
If it wasn't getting spent up,
right? Well, but
so,
we don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know. But he hasn't exactly told us why, but we do know that, he's older, and some of his quips between he and Quincy, references, we want to play later. And
hey, you up for a game later?
I don't want to hurt your feelings now.
Yeah, right. You don't want to hurt that back.
Your back and all of that. So he's gotten older. And then we see Monica, and Monica's waiting around for him because she's like, I want to ride home.
What you want?
A ride home.
And then in the car, they're actually arguing like an old married couple.
No, I like going home in silence after the game.
And but it gives us an insight into how their relationship is now.
Thinking about how good I look shooting that three.
Don't flatter yourself.
So after that fight that they had back in the day, they continued to be friends, and I think they just kind of became, I don't know if I'd call them best friends, but they both had this love of basketball, and they lived right next door to each other. So you know,
Yeah.
you're interacting continually over all of these years.
What's that?
Some note Shawnee Easton told me to give you.
At one point, she gives him the note. Well, she begins to read the note out loud that Gabrielle Union's character, Shawnee, has given her to give to Quincy.
Q, you are so fine.
And basically the note is saying that she, you know, wants to get with him after the dance, you know, she'll make it worth his while kind of thing.
Let me take you to the spring dance and I promise I'll leave you satisfied.
Of course, Monica is disgusted by this and she's like, ew.
What a hoe.
Oh, why she gotta be a hoe? Cause she wanna get with me?
She's sending her coochie through the mail. And she calls her a hoe.
Yeah.
She's a hoe because she's sending her coochie through the mail.
So what I thought was funny was that somebody who is so progressive and willing to kind of break the barriers here and there, she isn't
where we are today.
right.
If she was here today, then saying she want a bone and all of that wouldn't make her a hoe.
She's saying, I want a bone.
Well, it would be what he said, right? Which was that, you know, basically she's just upfront and states what she wants, you know?
She's honest.
Yeah, an honest tramp ass hoe.
Why she got to be a hoe. See, that's what he was saying back then, right? And she just called her an honest hoe.
But it's probably just that, just a lot of times we get this when somebody perceives a word to be negative, then they don't want you to use the word on them, right? Like if we say a movie flop, you know, then they're like, it didn't flop. Well, it by definition it flopped, but why does it has to be a negative indictment by us just describing it using this term? Right. So it's just kind of like, if these actions lead up to being a hoe, then yes, this person is a hoe, but that doesn't mean that being a hoe has to be negative, right? You could look at that differently.
Yeah, and I think in some ways that's what we see now with hoe culture, where people who would have been labeled hoe in a negative way back in the day, you know, have taken that word and have owned it. So, I mean, but that's really kind of what it is from my vantage point, right? From the vantage point of somebody who's maybe in their early 20s, it just might be regular, right?
Yeah.
Because the positives of it are that you are not indicting a woman because of her sexual choices in a way that you wouldn't indict a man.
Yeah.
That is positive, right? The issue is, should anybody be a hoe?
Yeah, because you know, back in those days, a lot was brought up concerning your health and their health. And that's kind of what Monica was talking about, saying, I guess you stick your thing in anything.
Right.
But then I guess you'll stick your thing in anything.
Because for the people who are around this age in Gen X, we're at the situation where you had HIV and AIDS, right? That were out there, that was out there, and very much a death sentence if you were to catch it.
And
at
no
that
PrEP
time.
and whatever the other thing. I just seen a commercial. It had PrEP and something else that didn't have an R, maybe?
I forgot the
No,
word. Pep,
post.
post?
PrEP and one was post and one was pre. So maybe they both was PrEP.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
you
don't
got
think
all
it
of
was
these
none of that
other
the same way it is now.
You got all of these other things that are just indicators of the time, right? As to why the characters would feel like they feel, because the reality then is different than the reality now. Now, you know, there are treatments, there are preventative measures, all kind of stuff. Back then,
especially around 91, 92, 93, it would seem like a bunch of celebrity or high profile HIV diagnosis and AIDS deaths were in the news.
Right. You know,
so that informed how people thought about these things.
Very true. So yeah, so they're fighting in the car and going back and forth and everything. And then he decides to get back at her like Quincy always does. And he's like, that's why you ain't getting recruited.
That's why you ain't getting recruited.
Who said I'm not getting recruited?
Your hot ass temper.
Because you emotional. And then she brings up this thing again. And I guess it's better defining what's being labeled as emotionality, which is that her passion for the game is misinterpreted as inappropriate because of her gender.
I'm a female. I get told to calm down and act like a lady.
Versus when a guy does it, which is literally the same thing that we heard Angel Reese say more recently in 2024. So apparently not all that much has changed about the perception of female athletes in this almost quarter century later.
But the difference is that they're now more high profile now.
True.
That is why it's talked about, because we see and hear about the women playing basketball more, or just women's sports in general.
And I mean, I enjoy watching some of the women's college basketball games. It was,
and at the time that this is coming out, we're entering the Sweet 16. Well, at the time we're recording this.
So yeah, so they're having their little argument. But then I think we're also going to get more insight into what their home life is like, years later.
Quincy comes home and his mama has discovered an earring in his bed, and she confronts him about it.
What is this?
That's your earring.
These fast girls looking to get you caught, Quincy.
Why does she talk like that?
Ma, what you doing in my room?
Quincy, I have told you about these fast-ass girls.
Because she knows they trying to get their meat hooks in. Back then, they would have called them gold diggers.
Now, I'm telling you, these girls are looking to get you caught.
Yeah, and then he's just like, yeah, I know, you told me, I hear you and all that. And
They see you and they see dollar signs. Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you.
then he's like, so where's your father? Oh, he said he'll be here later.
Later when?
I don't know. He said he had a meeting or something.
When? Well, where did he go? He said he had a meeting.
Anyway, I got to get to this meeting. So tell your mama we'll be late.
She said at 1 o'clock in
He's
the
still
morning.
having meetings, bruh.
Middle of the night meetings. And then
At 1 o'clock in the morning?
And then we have the confrontation between the mama and the daddy, the parents.
I'm not getting anywhere by punching the clock just so my wife doesn't get an attitude.
The mama is like, I came second to the NBA. I'm definitely not coming second to this BS scouting job.
Bruh.
I'm not about to come second in no bullshit scouting job.
So yeah, he's retired now, and now he's doing scouting. And then she's telling him, like, do something about your son because these tramps are coming after him.
You should see the tramps coming after Quincy. If you don't talk to him.
I have.
Then she talks about, hey, I thought you said maybe you would be going back to get your degree.
You said that you would think about going back and getting your degree.
And he was like, nah, you said that.
No. You said I should get my degree.
I like my BS job. So now we get a little insight into why he wants his son to get the degree.
I like my bullshit job, okay? And it's going to lead to a front office position.
Because what he knows is that the NBA career could be cut short. And he doesn't want all of his eggs in one basket. And presumably he left college for the NBA. So he didn't finish, right? He got drafted and left. And so now here he is, years later, and he's holding the bag and he can't make as much money as he could have, perhaps. But what I want to know is why, if you got fame, well, I guess he wasn't superstar famous, right?
And he played for
the worst team, at the time. Because I'm just like, well, why, if you're an expert in this area, can't you get a better job?
Yeah. Well, I think the scouting job is probably good. I don't know. So that's something that I do not know about. So maybe y'all could go to the comments and let me know what it's like, what type of scouting he could have done for colleges, or I don't know who's he scouting for, and why it would be a BS scouting job, and maybe it just pays less.
I think it just pays less, and probably everything paid less than what
but
he
was
getting
talking
in the
about
NBA.
maybe getting a front office position from this to move up.
Yeah.
So,
and he's like, but don't worry about it. We got just enough savings to keep you in Gucci and gold and whatever else, right?
Gold.
We got just enough savings to keep your fine ass in Gucci and gold.
Because so here we also get a subtle implication that perhaps the mother was in it for money. She snagged him. Like, did she trap the father?
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Because she came and misrepresented herself. Oh yeah, I'm a cook. I do all this. Then you get knocked up by him because you see his promise and you think you about to have a paycheck, which she did. But it also came with some other things that she didn't prefer. But the other argument could be made that maybe she fell in love with him and she wasn't trying to get her meat hooks into him just because of the money he could have made or did make, right? So go to the comments also and let us know. Do you think that Quincy's mother trapped Quincy's father? And by trapped, I mean got pregnant on purpose early on so that they could be a family and have a baby.
Wow.
And she could get paid.
That would be very crazy if
she wanted to become a basketball wife.
But the way you put that together, it does seem exactly as what it is. And it's different when it's your child, right? Where it's like now your child could be the target of someone like you. Oh.
Well, okay, so like this, hear me out here. This is like, what they're doing because you did it,
exactly.
right? This is the same as the father who looks and is like, I'm a player and I played a lot of women. And now he has a daughter and he's like, that dude, do not mess with him, right? Because I know that dude. That dude used to be me.
Yeah.
And this is, you hear people talking kind of about the karma
you never
of it.
see the reverse of that, right? Usually we see that side, that the story they show. right? Oh, I was a player. Look at me, don't look at that guy. He's not doing right. You don't see the reverse of I'm the mama. I'm the
Right.
woman.
Right.
And
This
I
is
was,
how I got your
I was
daddy.
trapping him.
Right. Because what would have been the message if she had a daughter? Like if she had Quincy and they had a daughter also, right? Would you tell your daughter, listen, what you got to do is you got to, I don't care if you could cook, So are you putting your daughter on game on how to get these guys for their money, but at the same time, you're telling your son how to avoid the women who want to get them. It's
But the whole
complicated.
fake and bake is weird because how long before you even got married, right? Because that's another total thing. Maybe you just felt compelled because you had a kid. See, that's a different time.
Yeah,
too,
yeah. Because now you wouldn't have got the ring.
Yeah, it's just been people have just been paying child support, I guess.
Right. So,
possibly.
So yeah, but clearly, they got married and had Quincy and whatever, and that was their only child. Interestingly, too.
All she needed was one.
Yeah. Now you're on the paperwork. So we have that situation that's going on and the arguments. And so I can't help because now we go back to Quincy and we see him. He's, just had a great game, a wonderful evening, and it's rounded out by his parents arguing.
Goddamn boy, stop.
Keep your ass home!
When he was a kid, what he was overhearing was the lovemaking dynamic between his parents, which was, whatever.
Ah.
But at least it was love-like. And then what you hear as an adult is the arguing. So like over these years, that relationship has deteriorated more and more and more. The mother wasn't happy when he was a child that he was going out late, but she accepted it. And now she is really, really getting to the end of her rope with all this. So to finish that scene out, Quincy doesn't want to stay in his bedroom anymore. So he lifts up his window and then he climbs out and he goes, knocks on Monica's window.
And he sneaks in through her window and he ain't even knocking it down.
They want us to have sympathy for him because they begin playing, the violins and the slow music that make us realize,
sad little child.
Sad child. And this isn't the first time because Monica knows exactly what he wants when he knocks on the window. So she just, groggily wakes up, opens the window, lets him in, and then gets back in her bed. And he knows that he just, goes and lays on the floor next to her bed.
Was Zeke pushing him to go to college and stuff too and go to Princeton because he was concerned of the type of woman that he would attract playing basketball too?
Oh. I mean, I don't know because maybe the mother and the father really weren't a match. And
Right.
this is, I think, a very appropriate conversation for all times, but even today, because the question is, clearly he was attracted to the mother. Clearly he thought she was, fine. And he even throws that in her face later, right? But we also know that we have this other budding relationship where Quincy and Monica know each other much better, right? We see that they have, a love for each other as friends at this point in the movie. But they're very close.
Yeah.
And they probably know a heck of a lot about each other.
Yeah, so see his parents too, back in the day when it was all lovely, like the contrast they made, Zeke was still in the league playing, right? Bringing in more money. And now when there's trouble and turmoil and what we see at this moment in the film, it's basically her talking about his income and what he's bringing in, right? So was it fine when he was making more money and now he's making less and then, that's not the lifestyle you signed up for.
Yeah. And I don't think it went well for, as we get into the movie, we'll see more, but I don't think it necessarily went well for any of them, in that particular family, because, if she indeed trapped him, she didn't feel like she got what she bargained for. He didn't feel he got what he bargained for because he thought he was going to have, a woman who was like a homemaker type that was like Monica's mother. And so that's the question, like, which is the better match? The lust match or the friendship turned love match? I don't, these are things that people should consider. And one other question. Okay, so he's going into her room at night And he routinely, probably when they have arguments, sleeps on the floor. And they're like, what does he have to pee in the middle of the night? Does he just get up and go to their bathroom?
Yeah, I'm guessing they got a big enough house. They probably wouldn't even know. And I don't know if they built them like they built them now. She might have a bathroom attached. You know,
maybe. I just always wonder about that, right? Like, is his relationship with the family enough that it's like he's the little brother from next door or what?
Yeah, probably. But he's also a boy. He could just jump out the window and go right there.
Go to the comments and tell us, did any of y'all ever have a boy jump out y'all's window? Was a boy coming over and knocking on y'all's window at your house? Especially if you were like an older millennial or a Gen Xer.
And when he did he knock it down?
Shut up. But yeah, I'd like to know that, because we always see, boys sneaking in and out. Like in real life, is this something that you did? And if you don't want to admit you did it, go ahead and just say in the comments that you know somebody who did this, and we know you're talking about you. But still, that would be interesting to know.
Can't leave at halftime. It's a championship. I know, honey, but I got a cutie coming to my room.
So in the next scene, we see that Monica's with her sister, Regina Hall. And Regina Hall is braiding her hair as the character Lena. And so she asks her, hey, you got a date for the dance and stuff? Because her sister's in college and she's still in high school.
You got a date yet?
So she's like, well, don't worry. I found you someone.
I found you someone. Found?
A fine college guy.
He's in college? And he is fine, girl.
This to a high school girl would be like, oh man, I have a college guy taking me to the dance. Like, that is a social elevator for sure. And he's a fine college guy. Like, yeah, that would be some social capital at the high school.
Yeah, she asked her about the spring dance, and Monica's just like, yeah, brothers are lined up in my locker, jokingly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, brothers are lined up at my locker.
How come ain't no guy asked her to spring dance? Is it her temper, her attitude? Like, I don't know.
I don't know either. Because it just seems weird to me. So, like, would that have been accurate if you were an athlete as in high school, that like something like basketball? What was it like? Do you have an issue with guys asking you out?
So maybe it's back to the tomboy conversation, because I don't know if being a tomboy would make boys not ask, but maybe it is like as if is equivalent to like being a stud, maybe, possibly, you know what I'm saying, or looked at the same way.
I mean, maybe, and
maybe just question her sexuality, so then they won't ask her. I don't know. That could be a whole movie in itself.
I know,
though,
I'm kind of getting to the outskirts of my, like what I would personally know and understand. But what I would say is, I think back then that if people thought, if guys thought that you were a lesbian, then they might not be trying to push up on you the same way.
Yeah.
Whereas today, I feel like if they think that you're a lesbian, that may not really affect.
Well, this is LA, so
you.
I don't know. But like in 2000, did people just think that people were lesbians? Because I don't think people were out.
Yes, I think they thought that they were.
But
I
don't think.
out.
Yeah, they weren't out.
Like,
but I'm saying I think the assumption is that no one was, right? You know what I'm saying? Because no one was out. And you suggested, you may be like, yeah, I think this person is, but that ain't going to just basically make it a fact, right? I think dudes will still try, because then there was no notion that this is an actual lifestyle and things that people lived out and weren't attracted, or women who were lesbians weren't attracted to men or boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, it's a difficult kind of, thing to kind of even imagine how it was then versus now, because I'm making sure that I'm remembering, but I do remember, so I'll give you some specific memories. And again, I am Gen X, so I'll give you the idea that I remember hearing people make comments about girls' softball teams, and this assumption that the girls on the softball team were lesbians. And then I think when the WNBA got started, which would have been some point after this, like you had the women who were clearly straight, or it seemed to be straight, who were even possibly like more girly girls who were, fierce athletes. But then you also had other women who, were LGBTQ. And so, I don't think that was necessarily judged. It might have been a little after this, so it wasn't the same kind of impact.
I think the WNBA was before.
Being possibly a lesbian in this movie or any other movie, or in life even, I just think that the eyes just weren't on the women the same way. And I know that we do have commenters who are from the LGBTQ community. And I would love to hear your comments on how you feel about this, because I think I weigh your opinion on this a lot more than mine or Heit's on this subject. But I would say that I feel like the spotlight wasn't on the women the same as it was on men who were gay or bisexual.
Right, which is why I think that boys would have still asked her.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was, and let us also know whether you think it was true to life, like that nobody would ask Monica to the dance. Is it also because she was sort of antisocial? Because she seemed to be very focused only on the basketball. We don't see that she has any friends other than
Testosterone
Quincy.
Don't care. So it would have to be her denying them, but from the question and the answer, it seems like no one asked.
Right. And then she's just like, well, I told the college guy, you were fine. You look like me.
How'd you get him to say yes? I told him you look like me.
And then Monica's like, I look like you.
Great. Monica, you do. Yeah, right.
The sister is clearly a girly girl, just like the mother. And obviously, Regina Hall is beautiful.
You just worry about playing your heart out for that recruiter tonight.
And so she's saying to her younger sister, you do look like me. If you do your hair, which the mother and the sister constantly say, if you just do your hair, you'll be fine. Which, oh man,
I try my hardest not to talk about women's hair.
You do a good job
but it
of
always
it,
comes up.
I think you do a good job of it. But as a woman, I feel like I can say that. And as a woman who has felt judged about my hair, I definitely can say that. Especially like the choice to wear locks before they were hugely popular and stuff like that. I think it's so judgmental, and it is so small-minded to just be focused on somebody's hair. And then because you get also the judgment of like natural hair. Now it's been a little bit more accepted, but back at this point, folks, this is the era before people were wearing wigs, okay? But they were wearing weaves, as you see the weave that Regina Hall has in her hair. So different weaves and pieces and, of course, braids and stuff like that had extensions. But to judge a woman's hair is just like, ooh, that is just such a tough thing. But I think a lot of women feel like they can do it because they too are women, and they're and it's not a fair thing, and it's not a nice thing to judge.
Basically, what they're saying in the movie is you ugly because you don't do your hair.
Right. And it's constantly reinforced. And I really hate that. And, I could go all day long talking about hair and, oh, look at your nappy head or your nappy hair. Like these are the negative things that we will say and do to each other, even in jest, even when you're doing your kids' hair. Like, those are things that people hear over and over. And I just don't think you even might realize the impact that it has on their psyche. So, but her sister's like, all I got to do is basically teach you how to walk in heels. Let me take care of the date and the sexy dress and all that we going to get you looking like to go to this dance.
Get you in a nice, sexy dress. Get you some heels.
And so then Monica says, have you ever been in love? And her sister says, too many times.
You ever been in love? Too many times.
They ever love you back? And she said, yeah, once I cut them off.
They ever love you back? Once I cut them off.
What did you think about that?
Yeah, she's just trying to get advice on her love life, like our people gonna do in the comments and tell us, I had this friend, right, without exposing themselves.
And it's okay. I'm here to listen because I read and soak up all of those comments, and I enjoy when you share things, and I enjoy the trust that we have that you share things and don't feel judged by your sharing these personal things. So
she's just basically telling us that she loves Quincy, and because we see how jealous and stuff she was in the car.
Yeah, over another girl, and
looking out the window.
Do you think it was this way the whole time though, or do you think that like she's starting to realize that she might actually love this guy?
I don't know. I don't think they showed us enough. I just think it's always been there. Right. And I just think it's different for boys too, right? Because he wants to smash and this girl's willing to do it. So he's going with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just think they were so-called in love at first sight. It was love at first sight and they liked each other. And then they just kind of just parted ways because of, social
as
things,
kids.
you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then what do you think about the sister saying that these guys loved her after she cut him off?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think that's love.
Yeah,
I think the
it's not.
sister had it wrong, right? She was like, yeah, they love
He's
me.
like, why are you so obsessed with me?
But once I cut them off, but really the cutoff is like a behavior modification
Yeah.
technique that you probably don't even realize you're doing. So the sister is like, yeah, I know game, right? I know how to modify the behavior, but it doesn't make them love you, right? That is not love. That is just psychology tricks, right?
Right. Yeah, but back to Quincy and them. Quincy probably didn't want to get with her too because of what they're talking about, how she looked and how she dressed, right? So the star basketball player, can't be with the weird looking girl,
The
right?
ugly dog, because that's what he called her
Oh,
when he was a kid and didn't really know better.
yeah. But that don't mean she's ugly, right? But she's just not girly, right?
Yeah.
So he can't be with her.
Yeah. So I agree. And then he cares. He cared a lot. And a lot of people do about, what other people would think and what his profile should be, right? Who's the woman who should be on my arm?
House. Lady Cougars on 3.
The Lady Cougars are playing a game. I don't think my high school has been in a movie or nothing like that. But the Crenshaw Lady Cougars. And it's a championship game.
Quincy is in the stands flirting with a girl.
Yeah, we got shot right. Yeah.
Monica, we know she's the captain.
Yeah, so the thing is they go up by one, basically, right? And the way they filmed this, showing her first person and sharing her thoughts.
Like smart. They put that out there. What?
Preach it in.
Pretty cool. But in the championship game, down by one, the green team, and taking that much time is wow. But a reaching foul while being up by one is wild too. Like what? Oh no, they were up by one. She wasn't even getting past half court, and she just fouled her. Like what? I don't know if she should be playing in college.
Well, let's rewind at least a little bit for this scene. At the beginning, we do find out she's the captain, and she's trying to play by the rules. She tucks her uniform in. We hear the slow music start to play, getting us emotional. She's really trying to play by the rules of the game. And we see that the recruiter is there, and then she looks over, and it's Quincy who looks over and gives her that little smile with them eyes. This is her chance. Like, this is her one and only chance to make it. And so when the game starts, and like you pointed out, we heard that inner voice. That, I think, is the only one and only time in the film where we hear her inner monologue, right?
Are you sure?
Is it?
I don't know.
I don't.
If not, they should have put it when they play for love at the end, but.
Yeah, but the song that is playing, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but the song that is playing at that point is her inner monologue.
Okay.
But let's get back to this game. So, she just begins to lose it though after she was called on that first foul. And
You need this, please.
then, they call for her to foul again.
Foul.
And she's sent to the bench, and then she just
did a good
crying.
ugly cry.
Ooh, I mean, when she put her head in her jersey, that's when
That's when you cried.
No, do y'all see how he's making fun of me for crying on these movies? No, but I felt it. Like, they did a really good job in this scene. It was the music,
like how she was looking, and then she just turned her face like. She did a good job,
She did a
Was this her
really
first
good
role?
job. I don't think this was necessarily her first role. In fact, it wasn't her first role, but I do know that it took a long time for her to get this role. We did, this was a while ago. We saw an interview with the director, and the director was like, we just kept having her do more and more testing and trying out. Now, for those of you who don't know, I don't know if I would call her a nepo baby, Sanaa Lathan, but maybe a little bit in a way because her father is Stan Lathan, and you probably have seen his name as the director and producer and stuff on all these TV shows, right?
Yeah. And it's her first starring role.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what this was. And so Gina Prince Bythewood I think is how you say her last name. She was like, I had to just keep putting her through the mix to make sure she was the right one. Because also, for those of you who don't know, she did not know how to play basketball before this. And I felt like as a non-basketball player, she was convincing enough to me. I don't know. You tell me if you think she looked good when she was playing basketball, like she really knew how to play.
We see in this scene, they didn't really show her.
Well, you see her like she had figured out how to walk and dribble a little bit. You know, like I probably couldn't even coordinate myself to do that at any point. That was not my sport.
Like first perspective without the arms and hands. So we just seen.
And maybe it was somebody else's hands. You know how they do these kind of tricks in movies and stuff. So yeah, so that's what happens, and she has her like cry, and you see the disappointment in Quincy's face. You see her father's disappointment, and you also see her sister who is encouraging, and she's just like, "It's all right, Monica. It's all right." And man, just kind of sad. But maybe things will look up for Monica when she gets to go to the spring dance.
So if you made it this far into this nice, great breakdown, type fake and bake in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around.
And be sure to check out the video that's on the screen right now.